And now, let's move on. Today, we deep dive into opportunities and benefits of AI for business. But what about the other dark side of digitalization and data fields? Let's talk about AI for security and protection of critical infrastructure. For that, we will be having a keynote from 3 different people. Ms. Jelena Levak is a former chief police inspector and criminal investigator with vast knowledge in policing, security and data protection. During her diplomatic service as the chancellor in Brussels, she was covering all strategic matters in the work of a whole series of working groups of the Council of the EU and drafting a legislative and non-legislative acts. Also, Professor Markarian, Emeritus Professor, Lancaster University, International Fellow of National Academy of Sciences, Visiting Professor at the University of Technology. Professor Markarian is a RENICOM CEO and has over 25 years of experience in wireless communications, including 10 years in senior executive positions working for a number of USA and Canadian companies. He is also a member of the editorial board Journal of Telecommunications, Electronic and Computer Engineering, a chairman of the IET Professional Panel on Communications, and a member of the UK Government Advisory Committee on Measurements in Emerging Technologies. He co-authored over 200 publications, including 6 textbooks and 44 national and international patents. And last but not least, Damir Osterman, Head of Process and Technology Development, Croatian Ministry of the Interior. Mr. Osterman is an experienced police officer and criminal investigator with a demonstrated history of working in information technology for the government. He works with business processes development, digitalization, and implementation of new features into existing IT systems or workflow. With a huge round of applause, I'd like to invite all 3 of them on our virtual AI Boost 2021 stage with the presentation or a keynote presentation of AI for security and protection of critical infrastructure. Hello, dears. It's such an honor to have such a group here speaking on this conference. Do you hear me well?
Yes, thank you. Do you hear us?
Good afternoon. Yes, yes, absolutely. Good afternoon. And without any further ado, I'd love to give the virtual stage here because I have a feeling 30 minutes, it's too little for you guys to actually say everything that you want. So the virtual stage is now yours.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the first change is it will be just 2 of us because Damir is traveling for business, but I hope we should be able to answer his questions if there are any. Again, good afternoon. I'm Garkin, and we are going to talk today about how artificial intelligence is used today for the protection of critical infrastructure. And more specifically, we are going to talk about how it is used for protection about the recent new type of attacks, attacks by drones. The next slide, please. We know, and you probably heard all of them, so the drones are being used more and more widely for helping to do some tasks. Here are some examples is observing in an airport, for example, perimeter or the runway, delivering some medical goods, checking the trucks in the railways and the bridges. And these are all classical scenarios how drones are used to help people. The next one, please. Unfortunately, it's not only good people using drones, but also bad people using drones. And usually the news about this is always on the front pages. And these are just some examples how the drones are used inappropriately. They've been used on attacks on people. Recently was about the Prime Minister of Iraq attack, and in Venezuela was attacked. The drones are used for delivering the contraband across the borders. They're used for spying on celebrities, getting some paparazzi pictures, and of course the big cases is the drones are interfering with the air traffic management. And what we are doing today, we actually as a company, we develop and deliver and install solutions which protect the critical infrastructure from drones. And the reason we are here, unlike many other companies, our system is based on the use of the AI. AI is in the core of our systems. The next one. And before I explain about our solution, I'll say how the conventional systems work. Usually it consists of a few types of sensors, mainly the radar. The radar will detect everything what is moving, will generate some sort of signal or reflection signal saying that something is moving here, but the radar cannot clearly say if it is a bird, it is a drone or airplane or something else. And then the signal will be given to an operator, and operator manually will zoom the camera into the target and will try to manually identify if it is a drone or not, or visually. As you can imagine, the drones are not flying all the times, so this is quite a boring job. Just imagine, because movements are happening all the time, the birds and the leaves and the clouds and so on. So the radar constantly is generating the targets, and operator manually always constantly doing this target. And actually, as it often happens, when the real drone is flying, this target is also missed as well. So this is where the AI is coming. So before we do what our system do, we need to do like a few definitions related to the counter UAV. So what we are dealing here, the first thing is a detection, which means what a moving target needs to be detected. Then there is a classification, which means so if it is a detected target, we need to separate drones from other type of drones, like the birds or airplanes and so on. Once it is classified as a drone, it needs to be identified. So we need to say what kind of drone it is. So once we know the type of drone, we will know definitely what sort of countermeasure could be applied to this drone. And the final thing is, usually the system who operate the drones, these anti-drone systems, they are not in charge of interfering with the drones because there are legal requirements there. So the security people need to be alerted, and they need to be alerted properly, not just simply saying there is a drone flying, but they need to know the location of the drone, the speed, the direction what is flying, the altitude and so on, so they can make the right decision. The next slide, please. Jelena, next slide, please. Hello? Yeah. In one of the earliest presentations, it was mentioned correctly what for AI system to work, it requires the database. And the better is the database, the more accurate and more precise the AI system will be, which is absolutely correct, but it's not the only thing. For AI system to work, it also needs to know the other systems, what it will be interacting. I'll provide an example. If we are talking about the AI system, which should be used for protection from drones, not only we need to have a good library of drones for AI to classify and to detect, but we also need to know what is the drone itself, what are the components of the drones. So if we are going to engage with this drone, trying to countermeasure to eliminate, we need to know which part of the drone we will be attacking. Because it's easy to say, let's shoot it down, but in many cases we cannot shoot down simply because it could be even more damage. So we need to know either we should distract its navigation system, or we should distract its GPS coordinates or the telemetry link and so on. That's why the knowledge of the countering agent or the countering system is also very important, probably as important as the database. The next slide, please. So another thing, what is also quite common here is there are many types of sensors which are used for the countermeasures, but one thing what is clear is there is no single sensor which can do the job properly. And the more sensors you use, the more accurate result it will be. But there is another danger here. Just imagine what we're using more than one sensor, let's say the radar, RF, optical, or the few radars to protect the large area. And let's say all of them suddenly at the same time they detect the drone. If there is no clever system behind these sensors and this is where AI started to appear. It could be seen as a multiple drones flying all together at the same time, multiple attacks, while it is only one drone. So in addition to having a sensor, we also need to have a system behind it who will be doing the data fusion and classification and identification. And each sensor has its own limitations. The radars cannot accurately detect the low-flying objects, while the cameras cannot detect the objects which are behind the trees, and other sensors cannot detect the sensors or drones which are flying in autonomous mode. So the common wisdom is here what it will be good to have as many sensors as possible, or as many sensors as you can afford, and to have an AI system which will do the job, as mentioned before, like a detection, classification, and identification. The next slide, please. So this is a summary of different types of sensors, the advantages and disadvantages for each of the sensor, and example of our system, what you can see behind me. Basically, by combining this system together, we can eliminate or we can compensate the drawbacks of our systems. The next one, please. Yeah. But among the many types of sensors what exist, there is a common view. What one of the sensors what definitely should be in any system is an optical sensor. And the reason for this is very simple, because the optical sensor will give us evidence what can be used later on for forensic investigation, and to will be as a proof what this is actually happened, this attack or illegal flying of the drone. These are the few kind of remarks from our customers, the people who basically commented on the use of our system and on the optical system. Next one, please. As I mentioned, our system is installed in quite a few critical infrastructure locations in the UK and abroad. Most of them are for the protection of the airports, but we also have system installed for protection of prisons. It's basically preventing from delivering contraband to prisons. We also have system installed in the military bases and so on. And the diagram here of this slide here is basically shows the basic concept how the system is constructed. If you take out the red box on the left, which says AI module, everything else is a pretty standard approach, and this is how everyone else is doing this counter-UAV systems. Where we are coming here, in our system, what we do, we also have this what we call the AI module. And the AI module is something what makes a huge difference. And this difference is as following. So now when a drone is detected by one of the sensors, let's say by the radar, rather than operator manually looking into this direction and trying visually to say if it is a drone or no drone, AI takes control, AI operates the camera, AI zooms the camera to the target, then AI will make a decision and a classification if it is a drone or no drone, and then create the image, photographic image as an evidence, store the image, and then we'll move to standby mode to wait for another target. And technically, there is no need for the operator to sit 24/7 and to do this job. However, AI also will do the notification to the security personnel saying this is a drone flying in. And the decision about which neutralization tool to apply should be made by the humans. So it's a man-in-the-loop operation, because in many cases, simple destruction or simple shooting down the drone could be even more damage. Just pretend that the drone is flying over the big crowd, just taking photos, and if someone shoots it down, then it probably will be even more dangerous than just leaking a few photos. The next slide, please. So conventional optical systems, as I said, it's a camera with the joystick and the operator sitting and looking for all the targets. The next one, please. The system what we've developed is shown here, And that again, you can see it behind me on the photo. So what it is here, it's the system which is in the core of it is the AI. So maybe the diagram, next diagram can explain it a bit more. I won't go into through a lot of details, but what the system is doing is as following. It has one module, what we call like a detection module. This module will look into everything what is flying. And then what it will do with these flying objects, rather than trying to see and to zoom and to kind of do the classification of the object, it will analyze the trajectory of movement. So we have a built-in neural network and AI algorithm, which will look to the object from the point, the dynamics of movement. If the object is flying like a drone, or what we believe it is a drone, the command will be given what, this is probably a drone, and then it will move to the next level. If that object is flying as a differently, for example, it's a cloud or it's the leaves falling from the tree, then it will be ignored and the system will be ready for another detection. The next one, please. Maybe we can skip all these formulas here and then go to the image. Next, one more. This one. Yeah. So what you can see here is on the left-hand corner, all the objects which are moving in the sky are detected and classified. So once the object is detected, the number is given to this object. And if it is a suspicion for a drone, then the command will be given to until zoom camera, and it will zoom into this object. And it will zoom with the maximum zoom and get the image. And then we have another classification algorithm, which is also based on the AI. And not only will say, initially it will say if it is a drone, like for example, it will give an image, as you can see on the bottom part of the image. And then it also will classify the drone saying, well, this is a DJI Parrot or the Phantom or any other drone and so on. And for that one, we have a huge library of drones, which we were creating for the last 5 years. And we are still continue creating it because the new drones are coming continuously all the time. So once this is being classified as a drone, its location it also will be put on the map and the record, and the notification will be sent to, let's say, the people who are responsible for the protection. And they will be deciding what to do with this drone. And I'll come back to you to this later. Next one, please. As I said, drones are not flying 24/7, but most of the time they're flying other objects like birds and everything. So in the conventional systems, this is technically a false alarm. But in our system, if the bird is detected again, the system operates exactly in the same way, and it will zoom into this. It will decide if it is a drone or no drone. It will take a record. And for example, on this slide, you can see a few examples from the real scenarios where both birds and drones were flying, and the system were classifying them accordingly. And it also puts them on a map with the different labels saying this is a bird and this is a drone. So the benefits of what we are proposing here, or the benefits of the AI, is A, it's a complete automation. The B is minimizes dramatically risk of the false alarms, the number of false alarms. And the C, it actually allows to do many other things, what it's not possible to do visually or manually. And this will be explained in the next slide. Next slide, please. So this one, this is our ongoing research, but it's a research in the area where we already have some the working prototypes, which look very, very promising. Again, based on the AI. And I would like to explain what we are doing. Detecting of drones and classifying is important, but just simply saying, well, this is a drone is not good enough. Because without knowing what this drone is carrying, it's not too much use to it, because in this case, all the drones are the same danger. So what we are doing now, we are trying to do the payload detection. And as you can imagine, it's quite difficult because the drone may have a box attached to it, but what's inside the box you cannot say, you cannot see it, you cannot measure it distantly like through radiation or through the spectrum. So that's the challenge, and that's an open challenge. What we can do with the help of AI, again, we are looking to the dynamics of the drone, we are looking to the dynamic of movement. And if the drone is carrying something which is more than its usual payload, actually the dynamic of movement is changing. And it's changing according to the weight of the payload. So what we are doing by analyzing the flight and looking to our statistics in our databases, we can say quite accurately what weight of the cargo the drone is carrying. We cannot say what's inside the box, but we can easily say, well, this box is half a kilo or 3 kilo, or it's only 100 grams or so. And that's a huge help to people who need to make the decisions about what to do with this drone. The next one, please. And when it comes to what to do, again, there is a huge choice of options here. You can see here some of these. There are like a military grade systems, as you can see on this slide. There are drones with the nets, where drones like as a guns, but instead of bullets, they are shooting like a radio waves. And there are drones which are shooting the special bullets, which have a parachute inside and will just disable the drone. And there are even eagles, what people are using eagles to catch the drones with the help of eagles and so on. But it's not as simple as it is. So it's not the case of if I spend more money, I will have a better system. Because up to today, interception of the drone is illegal. Because drone is considered as an aircraft, and intercepting drone is equivalent to intercepting aircraft, and it's illegal operation. Even police don't have this permission today to do it. Only military people can do it in case of the direct danger to the personnel. So what to do with the drone, how to operate, it's a big question at the moment. And it's an open question which is being considered by a number of organizations and regulatory officers. To help with this, we came up, next slide please. To help with this, we came up with the solution, what we call the neutralization chain. And the neutralization chain, it's basically, again, the AI-based system. So once the drone is identified and classified as a drone, the system will give an advice, and this advice will be based on the knowledge of the local regulations, based on the knowledge of the protected security assets, and this advice will be giving the human operator which kind of weapon to use against this particular drone. I'm very pleased to say what we've been successful in putting this proposal into Horizon PRAETORIAN project, and maybe Jelena can say a couple of words about this project.
Just a second to unmute. Yes, I have prepared a few slides later on if you want to finish with your next slide, so I can then go through drone-wise. And thank you.
So the neutralization chain will work as following. So once it is decided, the AI will look to the database about the regulations, the protected assets, the danger, the results also from the payload of the drone, and it will recommend the action what to do. In some cases, the action could be shoot it down, but in some cases, the action could be just do nothing because this drone is probably not a danger, and shooting it down will be more danger than just leaving it to fly. Next slide, please. So as an example of practical system, how the system is used, I'm also pleased to say we've been working with the EUROCAE standard. And the EUROCAE is a European organization for standards in civil aviation. And we've been actively participating in the standard, which was developing the anti-drone systems for the airports. The diagram of the system is shown here. As you can see now, in the middle of it, there is an AI everywhere. So it's a AI for detection, AI for command and control, and AI for defeat. So this is the case now, coming to this aim of this conference. So where AI is not only like for the future, but AI is already for today, it is in the international standard, and everyone who wants to be compliant with the standard must have AI in their anti-drone systems. The next one, please. Maybe Jelena.
Yeah. I would just like to comment the previous speaker with the topic of how companies can benefit from it. So this company benefited from the AI in the ways that we have successfully submitting the projects which contain our AI solutions. The first one was DroneWise, which we used our powerful AI drone classification model from our Sky Patriot and actually use it for a rogue drone training. And the first idea was deny training, detection, evaluation, neutralization, and investigation of rogue drones. And then we successfully submitted to the ISF call with DroneWise. It was a call for proposals on protection in the specific context of counterterrorism. And we were the only project that was granted an agreement. So DroneWise project contains, there are 6 partners from 5 member states, that's Bulgaria, Croatia, Estonia, Germany and Greece, and with a total amount of 1.3 million euros. So it started on the 1st of June last year, so in the middle of the COVID crisis, and it will end next year. It's a short call, it's 24 months. Project coordinator is Bavarian Police, so University of Applied Sciences Public Service in Bavaria. So the strategic aim of DroneWise is to significantly improve the security of public spaces by enhancing the cooperation and coordination between first responder agencies to effectively plan against and manage the aftermath of terrorist attack by use of UAVs. So basically, what should every emergency service do in the case that there is a rogue drone threat? So the objectives of the DroneWise are to conduct a thorough analysis of the terrorist threat to public spaces and the terrorist use of UAVs, then to develop a counter-UAV training program and to provide ready access counter-UAV training tools for first responders. That we will do through thorough analysis of end-user requirements from use cases to assess first responder operational challenges in responding to threats from UAVs and terrorist attacks on public spaces. After that, we conducted a thorough analysis of UAVs and the UAV detection technology capacity and capability. And we are now in the phase of developing a platform on which every member state first responders will be able to join for free and to test and to train their counter UAV plans against the platform. It will be interactive modules. So we will be very happy to accept first responders from all the member states and, of course, further police officers and military officers from out of the member states. That was our first project, and then Garrick was actually referring to a PRAETORIAN project. PRAETORIAN project just started, and it is a big infra. It's a third iteration of big infra protection of critical infrastructure. So PRAETORIAN strategic goal is to increase the security and resilience of European CIs, facilitating the coordinated protection of interrelated CIs against combined physical and cyber threats. In this third iteration, it is basically we are trying to see what will cascade, what will be the cascade effect of an attack, different kinds of attack. So PRAETORIAN is consistent from 23 partners from 7 EU countries, and it will have 3 pilots in 4 EU member states. One will be led by a Croatian partner, one by a French partner, and one will be by German partner. So total budget is 9 million euros, and it just started. It started in June, and it will be over in 2023. What is the best solution is that it has 2 sets of objectives. It has a technological objectives and impact and user-oriented objectives, because the critical infrastructures are not an islands isolated from their surroundings. So technological objectives is to evaluate the hazards and minimize their level of risk by assessing the vulnerabilities of target sectors and designing adequate security measures. Then understanding of any physical or cyber threats and their consequences in the interdependent network of critical infrastructures. Improve the resilience of the CI, their neighboring population and environment, and enable a coordinated response to any kind of attack. Then share with the public pertinent information on the risks associated to an event and the emergency response actions planned to overcome the incident. The second batch is impact and user-oriented objectives. So first is to validate the project results in real contexts of interdependent CIs, to improve the efficiency, cost effectiveness, and social benefit of the measures. The second is legal, ethical, privacy, and societal principles. So ensure compliance of these solutions with the legal, ethical, privacy, and societal principles, including recommendation to policymakers. The third is to disseminate results to relevant communities of users. So not only to the proposed cost-effective solutions beyond the project participants, not only the project participants and leading CIs. So PRAETORIAN will develop 4 products to provide a coordinated action towards security threat and attacks. And that second iteration, we had a cyber awareness system and a physical situational awareness system, but we didn't produce a hybrid situation awareness system. So in this third iteration of this Horizon Infra, we are doing a hybrid situation awareness system, and we are doing it in a digital twin modeling. So we are not affecting day-to-day business of critical infrastructure. So we are not going to interfere with everyday operations or put it into any kind of danger or something to do with their daily work. And then afterwards, the fourth product will be a coordinated response system, which will be a final result of the tested final result of the PRAETORIAN project. The other thing that let me just go back to the drone-wise dissemination. Of course, every part of the project is a dissemination. So from drone-wise, we already received international recognition, being described as a unique collaborative approach to address the terrorist threat from drones, and it already produced a book. So a book is Countermeasures for Aerial Drones, where we put all the today's UAVs and counter UAVs known. It's explained in new volume, explains the development of UAVs, drone threats, counter UAV systems, and strategies to handle how to handle UAVs. We'll just go to the conclusions and leave it with you, Garkin.
Thanks, Jelena. So in summary, what I wanted to emphasize here is we all agree what the AI is the future, and the same way as it again was mentioned today, what electricity was probably about 100 years ago was changed. Internet and the mobile phones did the changes to our life. And I'm a strong believer what AI will do the changes. But what I also trying to say, well, this is not only in the future, this is actually happening today. And the example what we presented is just one very important, but still very limited and very narrow application of the AI. There are many, many other cases where it could be used. There's some presentations today very interesting, extremely. So thank you very much, what I want to say, for inviting us to share our work. As always, when you tell someone, you understand better what you are doing yourself. And if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor, and thank you so much, Ms. Jelena. Unfortunately, we're absolutely out of time, so we need to skip the Q&A session. Once again, it was a pleasure to have you here, and good luck with very important project that you're working on, connected with critical ecosystems. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing us. Bye.